Hello and welcome to eLagaan Whiteboard Fridays, where we look at various tax and compliance related issues in a user-friendly fashion. Today we will look at what are the various roles, responsibilities and liabilities of directors. So if you are trying to be a director in the company, you should be aware ki what are the roles and responsibilities that you get as a director, and then take a call accordingly. So the most important responsibility and role of a director is to take care of various matters related to finance and strategy for finance and strategic matters of the company. So some of these activities include things like merger or demerger or acquisition of a business, or even selling of the current business, or even a specific line of business or a substantial portion of business. So if you are deciding to do any of these activities, the board of directors should first approve such decision, and then only such activities can be taken care of. Making investments, and so if you are trying to invest, if you have surplus money and if you are investing in any company or any other kind of investments for like land, real estate, securities, bonds, anything, then the board of directors should approve such decision, taking into consideration various aspects. If you have received investments or if you are raising investments, so that also should be done by the board of directors. And then allotment of shares, so the shares cannot be allotted to anyone until the board of directors approve it. So allotment of shares is an important responsibility of the board of directors. Now if you are trying to take a loan or give loans to anyone as a company, then the board of directors again has to approve it. Without their consent, the company cannot even take a loan or give a loan. There are limits specified on making investments and giving loans. So if it is more than 60% of the total reserves that the company has, and if you are making such a substantial investment or giving it as a loan, then even shareholders approval might be needed. But as a first step, the board of directors first has to approve it and then recommend it to the shareholders, so that they can also take a call and decide whether to go ahead with it or not. If you are spinning off a particular business, or say you are into multiple businesses or even a product line, so that also needs to be decided by the board of directors. So spinning off of a particular business or a product line into a new company or a new entity has to be approved. Any appointment of directors, we have already discussed about types of directors and their appointment process. Please look at that video to understand more details about it. But the appointment of directors and key managerial persons. So key managerial person is people like managing director, whole-time director. It could be the full-time company secretary or the CFO, CEO. Those kind of people are identified in law as key managerial person. So if you are appointing any of these, then their appointment or even termination has to be approved by the board of directors. Then approval of company financials and board reports. So every year you file annual reports, or even if it is quarterly, half yearly, those financials has to be approved by the board, and before it can be published to anyone or submitted with any authority. So these are typically the roles and responsibility. People like independent directors, nominee directors, these kind of people are also involved in this decision making. But the responsibility of, so suppose let's take the case of company financials and board reports. So it is very challenging for people like these, like independent directors or a director who is a director in the company, but he is not involved in day-to-day activities. So it is very challenging for them to actually find out what are the deficiencies, or what are the shortcomings, or any wrong view has been presented in the board of director report or the financials of the company. So, for example, the case of Satyam, where all the board members were not put behind bars because only few people were involved in rigging the financials and the reports. So there the responsibility actually lies in the hand of the key managerial person. So there would be a person, if there is no key managerial person identified by the company, then directors by default are considered to be key managerial person. So in that scenario, a director cannot say that, hey, I am not involved in day-to-day activity, because one of the key managerial person has to be there to maintain or manage the day-to-day activities of the business. So there actually the key managerial person who is dealing with the day-to-day activities, they present to the board a report with the facts, that all the facts has been presented in a correct fashion, and he gives a declaration to that effect. Based on that, the board discusses the financials as per the strategy and the requirement of the business, and then go ahead and approve the financials accordingly. Now, as a director, it is also important for you to disclose the financial interest by the directors in company and even in other companies, so that the company should have the details of all the financial interest that the directors have. This is also important from the fact that there could be a lot of related party transaction that could spun off. So if a company does not know a director has interest in which all places, then it becomes challenging for the company to identify whether it is a related party transaction or not, and whether an arm's length pricing is needed in those transactions or not. Then calling AGM, which is annual general meeting, or EGM, and freezing the agenda, what should be discussed in those meetings, is also the responsibility of the board of directors. As I said, the day-to-day activities and running the day-to-day activities, or even maintaining registers and other compliances, is actually part of a key managerial person. If there is no specific key managerial person appointed, then the directors are defaultly treated as a key managerial person. So any wrong thing that happens, for example, there is an accident and if couple of workers die on a shop floor, then it is actually the responsibility of key managerial person. Or if there is any shortage on the compliance, for example, PF returns has not been filed, or TDS returns has not been filed, payments has not been made. So these are some of the responsibilities of the key managerial person. So a board, you can still be a director, and if you are not involved in day-to-day activities, then it becomes your onus to prove that this is the person who is a key managerial person, and there has to be a written contract with these KMPs, key managerial persons, which clearly specifies what are their roles, what are their responsibilities, and they should agree, both the company and the KMPs should agree. And that's how, if there is anything that goes wrong, then it would first go onto the key managerial person's shoulders. Otherwise, it would go onto the director's responsibilities and liabilities. So there has to be clear definition, and you may have to prove in the court if something goes wrong, or if there is a fraud. So somebody has to take onus. So your personal liabilities could arise if there is a KMP, and if you are just acting as an observer or as a independent director or a director who is not running the day-to-day show, then your personal liabilities could be restricted. Otherwise, all these things could amount to your personal liability. Now, apart from this, a lot of things, like nowadays directors are not allowed to take loan from the company, so that all things you have to take care until and unless there is a specific loan scheme which is approved by the company as a generic scheme for any employees and directors to take loans. So if there is a approved scheme, then the directors can take loan. Otherwise, directors are not allowed to take loan. They are not allowed to accept deposits. So making investments, taking or giving loans, or accepting deposits. So these things the director should take care that they are not crossing the specified limit. If you are a private limited company, you are not allowed to accept deposit. So if you fail on these things, nowadays with the new company law coming in, the penalties has been made very severe. The penalties could run anywhere between few thousands of rupees to lakhs to even crores of rupees. So even for small mistakes, and both the company can also be made liable and even the directors can also be made liable. For example, taking loan, if there is no approved scheme, then the company may have to bear a penalty of anywhere between 5 to 25 lakhs, and each director of the company may be made to pay 1 lakh to 5 lakhs, anywhere in between. So the responsibility can come on both the heads. If you are not allowed to accept deposits and if you are found to be accepting deposits, the penalty can run into multiple crores, like starting from 2 crore onwards. That's the least that can be imposed by the ROC. And now a lot of powers has also been given at the ROC level. Earlier a lot of things needed a central government approval, so the litigations were low. Now ROCs has been given the power. If there is any discrepancies or non-compliance, they can issue notices and make sure that the compliances are done on time. The penalties for late filings and non-compliances has increased multifold. So earlier, like, penalties and stuff were very, very low, but now it has been increased dramatically to make sure that people come forward and comply to things in a proper fashion. So these are some of the roles, responsibilities and liabilities of a director. You should be careful, it's an important position. Being director is fun as soon as it's a responsible position. So don't just play around with it, otherwise you may land up yourself and the company into a major suit. That's it in eLagaan Whiteboard Friday today. Thanks for attending the same. Feel free to send us your queries at support@eLagaan.com, or even check out our knowledge base at eLagaan.com/KB. Thank you.